If you're an introvert like me and you're wondering how to get ahead in today's corporate world, stick around and find out how I've done it for 12 years. Hi, my name is Onajite. On this channel, I talk about productivity and self-improvement tips for working moms and busy people. Today, we're going to be talking about introverts and how you can stay afloat and succeed in today's corporate world. If you feel like there's just too many people to get to know and work with, and if you feel like you can't get a word in edgewise at meetings, this one's for you. First of all, I just want to say I see you, I hear you. This is exactly how I feel at every single job. I've worked in 5 different companies so far across multiple locations. And I want to tell you it gets easier, really does. But there's some things you need to do to make the most of your visibility at your places of work as an introvert. First things first, you must prepare ahead. I know there's so many people who show up and it looks like they know exactly what to say, exactly what to do, and you're at a loss. Or even worse, which happens to me a lot, you think about what you should have said 2 hours later. That is the most painful thing ever. To avoid situations where you're regretting not saying something, not answering a question properly, or not having that timely comeback or witty statement or joke, here are 4 things you can do. Number 1, prepare ahead. If you're not someone who thinks on their feet or thinks on the fly, you must prepare ahead. I once worked with a manager who always blocked 15 minutes before his next meeting to prepare for the next one. That time was non-negotiable. All his meetings lasted 45 minutes. I started to adopt that as well. I would take time the day before, the morning of, or even 15 minutes before to prepare for the meeting. Here are a few things you need to note. Who is going to be at that meeting? How many people are going to be at that meeting? Will you have time to ask questions at that meeting? Are you presenting anything at that meeting? Once you have all of these written down, it's time to create a game plan. What questions are you going to ask and to whom? When are you going to ask those questions? Will you ask the questions in the middle of the meeting, at the beginning, or at the end? How do you want to feel after the meeting? You need to take charge of that meeting before you even get there. If you're presenting, it's very important to have your talking points written down. It's fine if you have to refer back to your notes from time to time. There's absolutely no crime in that. But you'll feel more confident entering the meeting, knowing that you have your talking points and knowing that you're prepared to address the people in the meeting adequately. Now, we all have those colleagues who perhaps they talk so much and no one else can get a word in edgewise. If you have a speaking slot, it's best to go first or get in before those people because they're going to take time, they're going to take up space. So get your piece in, then you can relax and smile because you've done your part. Don't take this lightly. You must prepare ahead for your meetings. The next thing you need to do is use your spidey sense. Now, only introverts will get this. The fact that we're quiet and we are more reserved, we tend to observe people more. We tend to hear undertones in what people are saying. We tend to see gestures. We tend to read body language easier. All of that is what I call the introvert's spidey sense. It's your intuition, and you need to learn how to hone it and trust it. What I've done in the past is I've looked around rooms and I've noticed if someone is uncomfortable, I would reach out to that person after the meeting, would have a chat, and I always find out that I'm able to build a connection with that person because I sat down, I was quiet, and I was able to notice due to my introvert's spidey sense. Or if someone else makes a comment and then a colleague on the other side of the room suddenly frowns, he or she was offended by that comment, you're able to address it in your round of discussions. Or you could call upon that person and say, hey, do you have any questions or do you have any reservations? The fact that you're able to read the room as an introvert is one of your biggest superpowers. It's a skill that you must hone over time, but from the beginning, I want you to learn to trust it. At the beginning of my career, I didn't know what this was. I would sit down in meetings and be quiet from beginning to end. I never said a word. Most of the time, if I had anything to say, the room would go quiet because no one was used to me speaking up. This was getting me nowhere fast, and I was starting to get uninvited to meetings. I had to learn that the fact that I was quiet and reserved was actually a gift. And I started to use the things that I noticed in my quietness to serve others and to even help myself. And it also gave me a competitive advantage. You don't always have to be the loudest person in the room. Listen to your spidey sense, hone your intuition, and use it to your full advantage to help others and to build your brand as an introvert in the corporate world. The next tip, which is closely linked to the second one, is build one on one connections. Introverts thrive in one on one connections as against thriving in groups. There are introverts who get their energy from others, but not all of us are like that. Many introverts like to build one on one connections, and that helps you in the corporate world because leaders get to know who you are outside of the noise. Leaders get to know who you are outside of large groups, and you're able to build connections. You're able to share your accomplishments. You're able to learn about the other person, about their challenges, and how you can help as a professional. When it's a one on one connection, no one is judging you based on your personality. At that point, your level with the other person in terms of your profession, in terms of your experience, in terms of what you bring to the table. Once you've built a good one-on-one connection, it's easier for leaders to refer back to you in group settings because they know you, because they've had discussions with you, because they've experienced you outside of external influences. They know you're an expert. They know they can count on you to get your job done. They would call on you in bigger settings. The one-on-one connection has helped you build your brand, and you'll start to get noticed in bigger settings. Be sure to strategically build your one-on-one connections with leaders, even leaders outside your current department. You never know when these leaders will need your help and expertise on the job. And finally, if you're an introvert, especially an introvert woman like me, do not bend over backwards. The fact that you're quiet and you're reserved does not mean that there's something wrong with you or does not mean that you're at a disadvantage. Honestly, I wish the world would be more comfortable with us introverts already because we're just the way we are. It doesn't make us less. It doesn't make us defective in any way. It's just a different personality. The world needs to get used to it already. Until then, do not bend over backwards. This is something I did a lot in my career and I've always regretted it. You don't have to take on extra projects because you didn't speak up at the meeting. You don't have to take on extra work because you're feeling bad for being quiet. You don't have to bend over backwards. You don't have to help someone build their PowerPoint slides just because you know how to do it because you're an introvert and you're creative and the other person is not. It's not your job. You don't have to do it. You don't have to take on that project. I always say no is a complete answer. Going the extra mile is very different from guilt tripping yourself into doing work because you feel inadequate just because of your personality. Don't get into that trap. Don't start it. Do not continue it. And if you've done it so far, trust me, you need to stop. If you don't respect your time, your schedule, and if you don't respect your priorities at work, you will be walked all over. I have been there, and it got to a time when I said, enough is enough. Being an introvert is a wonderful thing. And once you embrace who you are and master your true skills as an introvert, you'll be unstoppable even in the corporate world as it is. So don't bend over backward. You honestly don't need that to get ahead. I'm still on my corporate journey, and even more, I'm on an entrepreneurship journey right now. If any of these tips helped you, and if any of them resonated with you, let me know in the comments. As an introvert, what things are you going through in the corporate world right now? I'd like to hear them. Please let me know in the comments and come back for more tips on productivity and self-improvement for working moms and busy people, and of course, for introverts. Thank you.